Imagine that a human cell is like a car. Now imagine all the parts that make up the car, like the genes that make up a cell. Now picture if you were to get into a car crash and you would damage your brake and your gas pedal. Now if this were to happen, you of course would not be able to drive your car anymore. In a in a cell though, when the two genes that act as the gas pedal and brake get damaged, then this can cause the cell to grow out of control and eventually become cancerous. Unfortunately, cancer is something that most of us will have to deal with at some point in our lives, as the National Cancer Institute estimates that almost 39% of people will get some sort of cancer in their lifetime. Today, I hope to help you understand how a cell's genes mutate to the point of becoming cancer and how the cells will grow uncontrollably. As I'm explaining the genes to you, I want you to envision the gas pedal in the example as the proto-oncogenes and the brake in the example as the tumor suppressor genes. My name is Kordell Williams, and my grandmother has had cancer twice in her life, and it was really hard for me to watch her go through the treatment. I could tell how tired she was all the time and just how weak she was, even though she tried to always keep a smile on her face when I was around. And it's due to this that I have chosen this as my speech topic and I have done extensive research on it. Today, I will first describe how different genes lead to uncontrolled cell growth, and then second, I will describe how that uncontrolled growth invades healthy tissue. First, let's look at what happens to cause proto-oncogenes to mutate into oncogenes and how tumor suppressor genes can be turned off to allow cells to grow into cancer. I'll explain how cancer cells grow uncontrollably by explaining the actions of proto-oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes. First, let's define what a proto-oncogene is and the role that it plays within the cell. According to the American Cancer Society, proto-oncogenes are normal genes that allow the cell to grow. Some proto-oncogenes can be found in slide 3 and are things such as the receptor, and it can also be found in the transcription part of the cell. According to Sally Robertson from News Medical, once proto-oncogenes mutate, they turn into oncogenes, which allows the cell to grow uncontrollably into cancer. Two possible ways for a proto-oncogene to become overactive or remain active is by gene amplification and point mutation. The first way I will discuss is by gene amplification. According to Heidi Child from Nature Education, gene amplification is when there are too many proteins that are allowed to enter into the cell, which would take place at the receptor location in slide 3. When this occurs, too many proto-oncogenes are produced and they become unable to turn off, and the growth rate is increased. And so it's as if your gas pedal was glued to the floor of your car and you were not able to get it unstuck. It can be difficult for the cell to repair one proto-oncogene that mutates to become overactive or to remain turned on. So when there are more copies than usual, the odds of a tumor suppressor gene being able to stop it becomes even lower. And now the second way proto-oncogenes can become cancerous is by point mutation, which is defined in the Biology Online Dictionary as a change in only one of the base pairs that makes up the gene. According to Heidi Child, this mutation takes place in the transcription spot in slide 3, and it can lead to the genes to become more active than usual, which then in turn increases the growth rate of the cell. Tumor suppressor genes are the opposite of proto-oncogenes, but are still just as important in the growth of a cell. According to the American Cancer Society, tumor suppressor genes are responsible for monitoring the protein levels in the DNA and to halt the formation of the cell until it is repaired, or if it is not fixable, then the tumor suppressor genes will signal the cell to die. The right picture in slide 3 shows the locations where tumor suppressor genes are responsible for monitoring the growth of the cell. So as you can see, the tumor suppressor genes are responsible for monitoring the proto-oncogenes in the cell and make sure that they're not mutating in any way to cause the cell to grow faster than usual. Now, tumor suppressor genes can become damaged by random mutations, but it is important to note that things like exposure to tobacco smoke and ultraviolet rays have been found to damage tumor suppressor genes within a cell by the American Cancer Society. Now, when tumor suppressor genes are damaged, then they are not able to halt the formation of the cell and repair if needed, or possibly kill the cell. So this is equivalent to having a faulty brake on your car while you're going down a really steep hill. So when you go to press on the brake, it just doesn't work anymore. And then at that point, your car will just continue to accelerate out of control, and then you just have to sit back and you're along for the ride. Now within a cell, this allows it to grow out of control and allows the cells to divide with mutations such as oncogenes that would have otherwise have a possibility of being destroyed. Now, once the proto-oncogenes and tumor suppressor genes fail, then the cell starts to grow uncontrollably. Once the cells have started to grow uncontrollably, then they start to consume the area that they are in, and then they start to expand their territory. PubMed Health states that all cells in our body need oxygen and glucose to survive, and they receive these vital things through blood vessels such as the capillaries. And because the cancerous cells are dividing at a lot faster rate than the normal healthy cells around them, they consume more of the surrounding resources, so the glucose and oxygen, until they take over an entire area, which in turn becomes a tumor. Now, there are two types of tumors, benign and malignant. First, benign tumors, which are not cancerous, are those that remain within the area that it formed and it does not continue to spread to the surrounding areas. So, for instance, if the tumor were to suck up all the glucose and oxygen in that area, and so then it becomes dormant. Now, malignant tumors, on the other hand, are cancerous tumors that will spread from the site of formation and can enter the lymphatic system, which is like the highway that travels throughout the entire body. These cancerous cells hitch a ride on this system and invade other parts of the body and start the process of growing uncontrollably throughout many locations in the body. Now, for example, patients who have, let's say, colon cancer and then maybe throat cancer in their body at the same time, the reason that this cancer spreads so sporadically throughout the body is because it caught a ride on the lymphatic system. Benign tumors can become malignant tumors if the cells start to spread again and are able to spread within the lymphatic system. Not all cancers grow close to the lymphatic system and are forced to grow to a large size before reaching it. For the cells to grow to such a large size, they need to consume a lot of glucose and oxygen. Now, some cancers can become dormant and might appear to be benign that can undergo angiogenesis, which is when they start to actually grow their own blood vessels so they can receive extra oxygen and glucose to allow them to grow at a faster rate. So if the cells reach this stage, not only do they have the advantage of being able to divide and multiply a lot faster than healthy cells, but now they are also able to grow these extra blood vessels to acquire extra resources to grow even stronger. So it's a lot like a bodybuilder taking steroids to become even larger. Now, the newfound ability can allow tumors that were once far away from the lymphatic system a chance to catch a ride on the highway and spread throughout the body. Once the tumors grow to the point where they invade the more areas of the body through the lymphatic system, the more complicated and risky the treatments become. Today, I've explained how a cell's genes mutate to the point of becoming cancer and how the cells grow uncontrollably. First, I explained what can cause proto-oncogene and tumor suppressor genes to mutate to initiate the cell to become cancerous. Lastly, I explained how the cancer cells grow uncontrollably and spread to become malignant tumors. So if you or a loved one ever experience cancer, then there's a greater than 50% chance that it can be related back to mutations in a proto-oncogene or a tumor suppressor gene. Thank you.